Guys, the hackers in the crypto space just keep getting more and more creative in how they're taking advantage of people. And we're seeing people get wrecked with the newest exploit in the Polygon ecosystem and also the Phantom ecosystem. And this is really just hitting the news. I'm not really seeing this hit major news outlets just yet. So I want to talk about this so you can keep yourself safe, because there's a huge mistake that people are making that people make all the time in the crypto space, regardless of the specific incident. And I want to talk about how you can protect yourself from this. Talk about some important crypto security practices and this particular breaking instance that's causing lots of people to get wrecked, so that you don't do the same. So we are getting started a little bit late here, so thanks to everybody who is patiently waiting for our live stream to start. If you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory. On this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you will know how to become a blockchain master step-by-step, start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. So again, in case you have not heard the announcement, we are relaunching the Blockchain Bootcamp on Thursday, July 14th. You know, it's the fastest way to break into the blockchain industry, whether you're an experienced developer already or just starting out from scratch. So make sure you head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to hold your spot today. So we got people jumping in the chat here. We got David Stone, technically, Above Realty, Norris, Bruno, Miley, Dale, Jaya, Chris, Tina, THX Like This, Troy, Chris, Josh, Sensi. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, so let's jump into this. Look at this breaking incident that is getting people wrecked over in the Polygon ecosystem and also the Phantom ecosystem, because the hackers keep getting more and more creative, okay? So the public RPC gateway provided by Anchor for Polygon, so polygon-rpc.com, and Phantom, so rpc.ftm tools, were compromised via DNS hijack earlier today. So Polygon and Phantom foundations have no control over services provided by others, of course. Okay, they're saying use Alchemies or others while this is fixed. So what does this mean? So basically, let's kind of take a break. Let's kind of break this down. So whenever people are using dApps on these ecosystems right now, you know, they're connected with their MetaMask wallet, and then they switch over to the Polygon or Phantom networks and they start using these applications. They see an error that pops up in their MetaMask that has this really strange message. Okay, so basically it says ETH.js query. See, it looks like an error message that's generated by a computer. All right, but it's actually got some human manipulation behind it. All right, so it's a scam pop-up. So basically, users see RPC error, like a machine error that a user might see if something goes wrong, that says, urgent. Funds are at risk. Restore your wallet in www.polygonapp.net for method send raw transaction. Okay, urgent funds are, you see this message over and over again. And so basically what happens, so a lot of people are going to look at this and go like, hey, something doesn't look right here. Maybe I shouldn't do what these instructions are telling me to do. But unfortunately, what a lot of people are going to do, they're just going to kind of, like part of what these things do is they instantly instill panic in people. And whenever you have panic overcome you like that, then it causes some of your critical thinking skills to go out the window, okay? And you're in a very suggestible state. You kind of have this thing that takes over your brain, your ability to make decisions, and then you just start to, like, comply with whatever the thing's telling you to do. It's sort of like, oh, man, like fight or flight mode, like somebody's, like, now telling me what I should do to get out of this bad situation, and you just follow those instructions. And so what happens is they literally just go over to the website and it says, like, please restore your wallet. Like, your wallet has been compromised. And then what they end up doing is taking to the website that gets them to put in their seed phrase, okay? The seed phrase, which is basically like the password of their wallet, and then all their funds, get wiped out. So let's talk about, the big mistake here and how to protect yourself on this kind of thing. But first of all, let's talk about how this exploit can happen. Because, again, these attacks keep getting more and more and more creative. Okay, so basically the server certificate, here it is, right? And then basically it's an RPC related issue. So the actual URL that goes to the node endpoint that you would use on this particular blockchain was compromised, that you can just send, like you can basically intercept, messages that go to that, and then you can manipulate the response from those messages to display this custom error in the user's wallet software itself, okay? So now that particular exploit doesn't actually compromise the wallet itself, but you can just return this error message that tells people like, hey, you could surface an error that you would know that the creator of the actual software itself would never be able to create. So if you're on this website, like this Anchor website, like if you were going to try to steal funds off of somebody's account on a website like that by tricking them, you would have to either be able to access the website code itself of that, Anchor site, all right, and then like manipulate it in some way to put this error message, or you'd have to have like some sort of scam, URL that maybe like, replaces one letter in the URL so that it looks like the exact same website and like the undiscerning user doesn't, see it. And then you'd have to like message them in Discord and like get them to go to this site. And then they like, use that website. Like the whole point is you have to create something that looks like the Anchor website that's not actually the Anchor website. All right. You'd have to manipulate that site, or you have to create it look like. All right. But this is actually an exploit that lets you exploit an underlying piece of infrastructure that's common to many sites. Okay, it's common to many sites, to where you can manipulate it and send a message to the user to redirect them to a different website, or you could potentially, get them to enter in the seed phrase for their wallet to protect other funds. And so this is happening on, Polygon's happening on Phantom. Okay, so one thing to understand is if you're using any of these applications, there's two really easy things you can do now. One is just don't use the RPC endpoint that have been compromised. That's these two right here. Okay, so polygon-rpc.com or the rpc.ftm.tools. Just don't use either of these. You could use, Alchemy or Infura, or if you have, if you run your own node, which you probably don't. But if you do, you could connect your own node software. Okay, that's one easy way. Then there's no way that somebody else could compromise those, or it's unlikely that those would be compromised. But let's talk about another step, which is basically protecting your seed phrase at all cost. And this is one of the number one things that causes people to get wrecked in crypto. Okay. And like I was saying before, people are getting more and more and more and more creative in how they are accessing other people's, seed phrases, right? So we hear stories all the time. This is a really basic example, but I throw it out there because I don't assume that anybody has, there's no dumb questions around here, right? Like that's the whole point of this channel, is to learn. Okay, so like one of those common ways, and we're going to get to some more complicated ways, more insidious ways. One of those common ways, you see this all the time, where people are in like Discord channels and they're like trying to figure out an NFT project, and they get messaged by somebody, and then they're like, hey, do this thing, right? And then they ended up getting redirected to a website that looks like the website for the project that they're currently on, right? And then they maybe get them to sign a transaction that doesn't do what you think it's going to do, which is an approval transaction, and they sweep the NFTs out of their wallet, right? That's one of those common things you see all the time. You see this message on Twitter, it's like, all my Bored Apes are gone, you know what I mean? Because I did this thing and I was signing something I didn't know. So signing things is definitely a huge one. But honestly, the number one thing that gets most newbies wrecked is giving away your seed phrase. Now, well, not just giving it away, but actually getting it compromised in some way. So first of all, let's talk about what your seed phrase is in the first place. Okay. So your seed phrase is essentially like the password to your entire wallet. I don't want to get too complicated, right? Let me just pull up a text editor really quickly. I don't want to get too complicated in explaining how the seed phrases work, but let me just pull up something here and I'll illustrate it. Basically, your wallet has like a public key and a private key. So your public key is kind of like your wallet address, right? That's sort of like your username on the blockchain. It's not the same thing, but they are related. So like your public key is like this, right? I'm just doing a thing, and your private key will be some other thing that looks kind of like that too. I'm not going to type a private key on screen because it's just bad practice. So, but your seed phrase might be something like, a human readable phrase like apple, banana, whiskey. It's 12 words depending on how you do it. Okay. And then basically the random combination of these things can be used to generate different wallets. Now, a lot of people will either not store their seed phrase properly, or they'll do something that could get it potentially compromised, or they'll straight up enter it into a website or enter it in something that they should not. Because if you have the seed phrase, then you can control that wallet and you can control any funds inside of it. So the most common, like, absolute beginner mistake, and I'm not this is not like trying to shame anybody if they do this, like you just have to understand it's the most common beginner mistake, so protect yourself from it, is entering your seed phrase into into the wrong place. Okay, so the only time that you should be entering a seed phrase really is just like when you're setting a wallet up for using it for like its first time. Okay, so basically, like if you're setting up a new wallet, that's when you should be entering in a seed phrase, and you really shouldn't be touching it other than that. Okay, and whenever you're doing that, it should be in the validated, verified wallet, client that you're doing, whether it's on a hardware wallet, whether you're punching those buttons in, right, or whether it's in, a hot wallet that's not connected to hardware of any kind. I know people use those terms interchangeably, but I guess I mean like a MetaMask wallet or something like that. Whenever you're setting that wallet up for the first time, there's really no reason that you should be entering that seed phrase into anything else for any purpose ever beyond that, okay? Now, you'll see, it's pretty easy. Like, a lot of wallets will have this additional password that'll let you sort of like unlock your wallet. That's different from your seed phrase. You can enter that in all day long because that has really no relation to your seed phrase. It's like this extra layer of security. So let's say if you had just a software wallet and somebody can't just open up your MetaMask and click send money, right? They have to have this extra password. That's kind of the whole point. So you can enter that password, that's fine, but don't do it on your website. So anyways, that's kind of a general rule of thumb. Now, so that's what gets people wrecked is like they go to a website we saw a second ago that says like, hey, your funds are at risk, right? Go to this website and then to secure your wallet, and then you go to that website and they ask for your seed phrase. So if anything ever asks for your seed phrase, other than your actual wallet client that you're setting up for the very first time that you 100% verify, then that just don't enter your seed phrase, right? And a good rule of thumb is like, there's like a good rule of thumb. Again, I don't try to give too many security, like this is exactly what's going to work things. There's always kind of trade-offs whenever you're talking about security stuff. And inevitably, if somebody does exactly what I'm telling them to do, like they can still find a way to mess it up and they'll just blame me. So I don't like to give too many cut and dry, security guidelines. But think about it this way. Like if you're setting up a wallet, all right, and you're entering a seed phrase, like there aren't too many scenarios where you need to be entering in a seed phrase to something that already has funds in it, right? So if you're going to enter a seed phrase, like it's almost better to migrate to a different wallet, because if you're ever putting in that seed phrase, unless you're doing a recovery, okay, if you're doing a recovery and you actually have to do it, that helps. I know there's additional risks that if you're setting up a new wallet, you transfer funds, then there's always risk of not moving in the right place. I get that, but generally speaking, try to avoid entering into seed phrases to things that already have funds inside of them, okay? Unless you absolutely have to. So the other thing is about hardware wallets giving people a false sense of security. I talk about some of this on my channel. Hardware wallets give people false sense of security because, so it doesn't matter if you sign a transaction that does something it's not supposed to. You see people all the time that are like, they sign an approval transaction on a website that takes funds out of their wallet. Also, like, in this situation, like if you'd seen this, where you have this, thing pop up for the RPC endpoint that says, go to this website and then recover your wallet, and then you enter in your seed phrase, it doesn't matter if you have a hardware wallet. Like they're still going to be able to drain your funds. Like that's another reason why hardware wallets tend to give people a false sense of security. So definitely understand that, right? Like if you have your seed phrase, or if you sign a transaction, even if it's your hardware wallet, that thing's not going to do, it ain't going to do anything, right? It's not going to give you any extra added security. So the other thing is about, when I said about entering your seed phrase, for the first time or whenever you do it, you have to understand there's still ways that your, seed phrase could be compromised if you enter it in to something that, even if you're not on a malicious website. Part of that's like if your computer is actually compromised. So Like there are these things called keystroke loggers that can essentially pick up, every time that you type a key on your keyboard. And, it can get a stream of all that input, okay, to essentially figure out that there's a pattern recognition for a seed phrase in that entire stream of input, right? If it ever gets any of those, then it's like, oh, okay, this is a seed phrase. It could just try all that stuff and instantly just wipe your wallet. Okay, so typing in your seed phrase to a computer that has been connected to the internet as potentially downloaded malicious software is always a risk. Okay, that's another reason people do like hardware wallets, is because you can enter in your seed phrase by like clicking buttons on the actual device itself. All right, so that is a benefit of hardware wallets themselves. I mean, like the keystroke logger stuff, I mean, there's no way to really always be 100% sure that your computer has had no compromises to it. I mean, one thing you can do is just always assume that your computer has been compromised, okay, and then just act like it is, and then never do anything that you wouldn't do on a compromised computer, okay? So that's one way to protect yourself there. The other thing is, like, here's another thing that people do all the time, is they store their seed phrase on their computer somewhere, especially in plain text. Like they just write it down in a document. And then even worse, sometimes they'll like put it in the cloud. Like they'll write it and they'll save it in their Notion account or like their Evernote, or they'll put it in a text file and put it on iCloud or put it in Dropbox. Don't do that. Definitely don't do that. Because anybody who can access that file, especially if it's in the cloud, if your cloud, account gets compromised in any way, whether somebody guesses your password, and then is able to log into your account and find your seed phrase there, they can wipe it out. If you want to know if your account has been compromised, you can go to this website here. Have I been pwned? Okay, you should enter in your email address or your phone number, and it'll tell you whether your email address has been compromised. Let me tell you the fastest way that people's, cloud accounts get compromised. They use the exact same email and password for every single online application. Okay, so let's say you have an email address. Let's say your email address is, johndoe@gmail.com. Well, then they use the johndoe@gmail.com to sign up for Facebook. They use it to sign up for Twitter. And then they use it to sign up for Instagram. They use it to sign up for Coinbase, for Binance, for FTX, and Dropbox, and iCloud. And then you've got the same email address across everything. And then they use the exact same password. So let's say that you use the exact same email and password for everything. And then, 2 years ago, you went and bought a Christmas present on some really sketchy e-commerce website that caused you to like create an account at checkout. And you did, right? Or you use some super sketchy crypto exchange, like, I don't know, like something back in 2017, right? And then the people who run those websites, it's not that they just like sold your information. Like maybe they got attacked, all right, and compromised. And then now your email address or the hash of your email address has been exposed, okay? And then, they're able to essentially use that information to get into other services because you've used in the same email address and password into every single website. So definitely don't do that. People ask me all the time, how can you improve that problem? You can use a password manager like LastPass or 1Password to do that. There's multi-factor authentication is huge, whether that's a hardware device as a multi-factor authentication or just like a one-time passcode, OTP, that's like, like Google Authenticator. I don't use Google Authenticator, but you can use like other, it doesn't really matter. As long as it's good, it'll work. Okay, so that keeps people from doing that. Anyways, the whole point is like, how does that connect the dots? Well, all the time, people go, save their seed phrase into a text file in plain text inside of Dropbox, and then their email and password, they use the same email and password on every single website, and then boom, they get compromised, and then somebody is able to get in their account because they, bought something on an e-commerce website 2 years ago, and that site got compromised. Now they know your password, they can get into your Dropbox, they find your text file, it's got your seed phrase in it, and then boom, your crypto's gone. Or they log into your Binance account and then they click withdraw. All right. Or, you think that you have, like, if you're going to use multi-factor authentication, also never use SMS because you can get SIM swapped. All right. It happens all the time, where basically somebody calls in to your cell phone company, pretends to be you, and then pretends to be in a situation of distress. Okay. Hey, my car broke down the side of the road. I need this or something, or I'm in the hospital and I need you to send me a new SIM card right now. Or I need you to activate my phone, or I need you to do this, I need you to do that. I got a screaming baby in the background, whatever it is. The sound of distress where the person on the phone is like, okay. We'll just send you this thing without having to verify your identity. They'll just be really pushy or try to get somebody to empathize with their situations where they sort of cut corners. And then they basically get your SIM card, and then they have access to your text messages, and then they can log into your crypto account and then wipe your funds like that. So definitely don't use SMS as multi-factor authentication. But really this boils down to security best practices for actual, seed phrases themselves, because that's really what is causing this issue here. Is people are giving up their seed phrase, and you never want to do that. The other thing is you also, I was talking to somebody the other day who was asking me about this, how do I keep my crypto secure? This is somebody from, just my personal circles, outside of what I do on the internet, but because they know what I do. And they might be watching this video, so I won't name them, I won't pick on them. But they were, they were saying hey, what should I do with this? How should I back this up? What should I do about this? And then they were like, I wrote it down and then I took a picture of it. Can I save the picture on my phone? And I was like, well, does your phone sync to iCloud? Yeah. Well, absolutely not. Never store any representation of your seed phrase in digital form, where if it can be seen, it can instantly be taken. And especially don't store it on a single device, and don't store it in the cloud. Okay. So, these are all really common beginner things that you wouldn't know. I'm not trying to make this video to pick on anybody. Obviously, my whole point is to educate you and help, because, this is not something that you would necessarily just know. Why would you know any of this stuff? So some of these lessons also unfortunately end up getting learned the hard way. And that's the other thing is wanting to, help you all see this stuff before you have to learn those lessons the hard way. Because I don't want anybody on this channel to have to, go through the pain of losing money that they worked hard for simply because, they weren't properly secured. So let me know what y'all think in the live chat replay. Have you all experienced an exploit like this? Have you had your funds compromised? Did you see this message coming up on Polygon and Phantom? Had you using these applications and seeing these sketchy attacks? Has anybody ever tried to approach you to take your seed phrase inside of a Discord community, anywhere like that? Let me know what y'all think in the live chat replay. I want to hear from you. Three-way authentication. It says privacy is a myth, security is a responsibility. So this is Web3 where you can lose everything in one click. That's the other thing is, again, I don't like to give express advice on here's what you should do in terms of security best practices, because at the end of the day, like I said, everything has a trade-off, okay? And if I tell you to do something, then inevitably somebody out there is going to do it, and then it's not going to work out for them, and they're going to blame me. So I'm not going to do that. But one thing you can do, again, not what you should do, but what you can do, is not store everything in one place. Okay. So a single point of failure, generally speaking, from any design principle, is not the best idea in the world. So that removes the problem of losing everything in one click. So Bruin says it approached several times in Discord and NFT scams. So Landon says Gnosis multisig. Yeah, so multi-signature wallets are definitely a potential, solution for the right person. So what is a multi-signature wallet? Well, let's talk about how they work on Ethereum or other EVM compatible chains. Typically, these are essentially smart contract wallets that require multiple private keys to sign off before funds can be transferred. So you can have different schemes, right? So basically what you can have is like a smart contract that holds cryptocurrency, and then there's a function to like withdraw the cryptocurrency from that wallet, and then maybe it's like 3 of 5. Like you can have multiple signers, like you could have 5 different accounts and say as long as 3 of 5, which is a majority of these accounts, like authorize this transaction, then you withdraw funds. Now, the most common use case for multi-sigs are when you have multiple people who have to authorize transfers of funds, but you can also use multi-sigs just for your own purposes. Like basically saying, okay, I'm going to control, 3 private keys or something like that, and they're not all going to be stored in the same thing. Like maybe my MetaMask is a signer, maybe my hardware wallet's a signer, and then also maybe like, I don't know, some other wallet. Like maybe you have a different hardware wallet besides your Trezor or your Ledger. Maybe you use Trezor and Ledger, and then you use this, right? There's all different ways to do it. Or maybe you have like a script or something like on your computer. So where you could basically be the same signer. You could be the same person, but you have to your private keys that help secure your funds. I think that's what this person in the chat's talking about. How common is imposter syndrome as a Solidity developer? That's a good question. I would say it's probably about the same as any other programming field. So what is imposter syndrome if you're not familiar? Well, it's basically a situation where, you feel like a fraud when you shouldn't. So an example is, let's say that you're a developer and you're in a job situation and you got like a junior developer job. Or this happens at all levels, but I'm just gonna talk about the most common use case, which is beginners, okay, when you get your first job. And you feel in over your head, and you feel like there's a lot of expectations on you about what you should be able to do, what you shouldn't be able to do. And you feel like, I just don't belong here, I'm not good enough, and it's only a matter of time before everybody finds out what I'm truly capable of, and then it's all going to be over for me. I'm going to be exposed. I'm going to be, they're going to fire me. They're going to realize that I'm not as good as they think I am, right? So this is super, super, super common, okay? So I'd say especially if you're like new, like there's not the expectation that you're an expert. Like here's the thing: if you have the imposter syndrome situation, and other people are saying like you're good enough at what you do, there's usually the likelihood that you shouldn't listen to yourself. What you really have to worry about are people who try to just like fake, like actually legitimately fake what they're good at, and they're not. And those people generally don't have imposter syndrome. Usually they're just like trying to. Purposefully put up a front for some sort of ulterior motive, and they don't feel bad about what they're doing, generally speaking. Will layer 2 punk domains like .poly or .op be as popular as ENS? It's a good question. I don't know. All right, everybody, that's all I got for today. As always, smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That really helps these videos out, so then more people can learn about blockchain. And if you're as fascinated with this technology as I am, you want to get your hands dirty, how can you get started today? Well, you nothing on my YouTube homepage. You can find those free courses there. They're like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. And if you like those and you want to take the next step, or hey, maybe you'll take a master shortcut entirely, I can show you how to become a blockchain master step-by-step, start to finish, over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. Again, you don't have to be an expert to get started today. I help people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. All of them with my flagship training, the Blockchain Bootcamp, and we are relaunching it for the Blockchain Bootcamp 2.0 on Thursday, July 14th. So make sure you head on over to sign up to hold your spot today. So that's all I've got. Until next time, thanks for watching.